You're listening to the Outer Banks This Week podcast, a place for people to hear what's going on up and down the beach and to get the truth about what really goes on around the Outer Banks. So, are you ready? Here we go.
All right. Thank you so much, Wes. Outer Banks This Week podcast, episode 122. And it's all brought to you by Kelly's Automotive in Manteo, right there on Highway 64 when you're coming into Manteo, just past Jump Masters, just before the dog retreat, dog place, kennel place. I can never remember the name of it. It's the old Big Al's Soda Fountain and Grill is what it is. But it's now a dog retreat. And again, I can't think of the name of it. No offense to the people because I can't think of the name. I just can't. So, but Kelly's lies right in there, sandwiched between those two places. Check out their vehicles. They got a lot of work trucks out there, I noticed the other day, and work vehicles. So if you're in need of a work vehicle, they can assist you with that. If you're in need of a specialty vehicle, he can assist you with that as well. If you're in need of a shed, Kelly can do it all. Again, he's online at kellysobxauto.com. And who better to support Kelly than his lovely wife, Jessie? And again, you hear me say this over and over, but she is for sure one of the sweetest people I've ever met. Jessie over at Outer Banks Pest Control. Now, when it comes to the pest, she's not very sweet, okay? She's pretty aggressive when it comes to making sure that your house, your home, your office, whatever the case may be, is rodent free, okay? What are the vermin? The varmints, gone. She wants to help you get rid of them. You can check them out online at outerbanks-pestcontrol.com. Proud to have them on as co-sponsors of the Outer Banks This Week podcast. Oh my gosh, y'all. I really hope and pray that each and every one of you had a wonderful 4th of July weekend. It was a busy one for this guy right here. 4th of July, woke up that morning, did a big workout at our gym. And let me just stop right there real quick. If I sound funny today, it's because I lost my voice over the weekend, and I'll explain how that happened in just a moment. But yeah, so 4th of July started off, did a big workout, a 1776 partner workout. You have to do 1,776 repetitions. I think it was of like 12 different exercises. And I think when you did the math, if you did every exercise, you had to do like 49.33333 reps of whatever exercise it was. Now, you can partition it in any way, and your partners, you could say, well, somebody's like, nah, I'm not good at pull-ups, but I can do the sit-ups or whatever. So somebody might do more sit-ups than pull-ups to break it up a little bit for everybody. So with all that being said, it was definitely a barn burner of a workout. I hit my calorie goal in like an hour and 20 minutes or something. It was something nuts, but great way to start the day. Went to my in-laws' house, swam in the pool, had a cookout with them. I didn't get to see any fireworks. I had to take my little one home. He's still not crazy about the noise, but my wife and my oldest, they went out in the boat with my dad and my mom, and they went and watched the fireworks that day on the 4th of July. I got to give a shout out to my kid, Austin, real quick, though. He hooked up to it had to have been close to 10 pounds, a black drum in the sound just the day before that on Thursday, July 3rd. And he was so tickled. Now he's got the bug to go fishing all the time. So now I got to figure out a way to make that happen. But yeah, so then there was baseball tournament this weekend, and that's where I lost my voice. I was at Dare County Baseball is hosting the district tournaments for 8U, 10U, 12U, and 15U baseball right here in Manteo at Westcott Park and at Manteo Middle School. And I volunteered to work the gate a couple of days, and I'm still going to try to volunteer some more this week if I can. It all depends on how crazy my schedule gets. But they, the kids, like part of what my job was, like helping coach and everything this year, was getting the kids all jacked up and ready to go out there and take the field. And I can say that I never lost a 10U baseball game in the history of my coaching in spring baseball. Went undefeated the last 2 years. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact those kids got jacked up, went out there and were playing aggressively. Well, that's part of what I do. So I went out there the other day, Sunday, as a matter of fact. Saturday, everything got rained out because rain settled in on us that morning here, specifically in Manteo. I had people telling me that down the beach it wasn't raining. But regardless, things got rained out that day. And Sunday was at the ball field, and I was screaming from where I was at, set up at the fence, at the gate, getting people in and out. But I also went around to the side of the dugout before the game started, and I got those kids all sorts of jacked up, and they were ready to rock and roll. I think when I jumped around the corner and started yelling, I scared some of them, but that's where I've lost my voice, so please forgive me. Great weekend, though. Can't complain about anything that happened this past weekend. Back to another work week, back to another podcast. So here we are. So some of this rain, I guess there was a tropical storm. I don't even remember the name of it. I think it started with a C. And it just kind of spun up. It wasn't like a super crazy tropical storm. I believe it went in around like South Carolina-ish down that way. And it's caused some flooding inland again. We got a few outer rain bands on Saturday and a few on Sunday. But nothing crazy, nothing too terrible that it flooded us or anything like that. We did have a few torrential downpours, again, in the Maniowanches area specifically on a Saturday morning. But that was it. That was really it. A few sprinkles on Sunday, and that was it. Nothing crazy. But I do want to remind you that there is an app out there. It's called the Windy app. Windy.com, I believe is what it is, or the Windy app you could put on your phone. And I look at that on a regular basis. And I looked at it just a little bit ago. And keep in mind, I recorded this podcast a few days before it came out. So keep that in mind if you're looking at it right now. The Windy app is a good source for looking to see if there's any storms that are getting brewed up, potential for storms to get brewed up, and just track things in the world of wind. Yes, in this windy world that we live in. So that's just something I keep on my home screen. Click on it, take a look, scroll out for about 10, 12 days, see if there's anything on the horizon. And as of right now, the time of the recording of this podcast, there is nothing that I see that is spinning around in the Gulf of Mexico, out in the ocean, or anything like that. So that's something to keep in mind. I will suggest, though, that you get travel insurance with whatever real estate company you've booked your house through. If you're coming on vacation, travel insurance is important because let's say something does happen. You've got your reservation booked for the end of August. Tends to be ramping up storms at around that time. I would suggest that you go ahead and put that travel insurance on there. So if something happens, we have a storm, they lock us down and you can't get here, you get your money back, or I think that's kind of how it works. Anyway, I would talk to your real estate people about that and wherever you have your house booked through. So just something to think about. So yeah, it was a great 4th of July weekend. Just to kind of wrap that part of the conversation up. This week on the podcast, I've got Miss Sarah Hollis Himmelwright. So her initials are SHH. Shh. That's what I'm going to call her when she comes in. No, Miss Sarah Hollis Himmelwright from the Coastal Federation. She's coming in to talk about the different things that the Coastal Federation does to help preserve the estuaries and the ecosystems and everything around here on the Outer Banks. They are a large organization, and we're going to talk to her more about some of that when she gets here. Trying to think about any news. I heard something about a pool house catching on fire in Duck. I don't know the ins and outs of all that. Not going to go down that hole, but the person that has all the answers of the news, he is the answer. That is the Grand Slam. Woo! Sam Walker at samwalkerobxnews.com. Just a quick recap of last week. Y'all know what I talked about. I talked about 4th of July festivities all around the Outer Banks, namely right here in downtown Manteo. It appeared as if there was a lot of things going on in downtown Manteo that day. There was a lot of people down here. I saw a lot of the photographs, and they were amazing, okay? I didn't watch any videos of anybody videoing the fireworks because I think that's stupid. Unless you couldn't get there and you really wanted to see it, is that a cool thing to do? But like, I'm not, when I see videos pop up on my Facebook page of people that videoed the fireworks, I just keep on scrolling. I just keep going. I don't look at them. So to me, it's almost like some people waste their time. But again, there might be those few that miss the fireworks and they're like, oh, I wonder what they look like this year. I'm willing to bet that if you've seen a fireworks display once, you've probably seen it 1,000 times, you know, especially one of the magnitude that they do at Kill Devil Hills, Nags Head, Avon, Manteo, Corolla, Ocracoke. They're pretty large. So if you've seen them once, you've probably seen them 1,000 times. But again, I keep scrolling personally, but I did take a look at those pictures from downtown Manteo, and it seemed like everybody was having a good old time. My buddy, Mr. Adam, from right there in Edinburgh, right outside of Chesapeake, made the trip down here to Manteo, and he said he had an absolute blast. And that's all I need to know. And that guy is a good gauge for fun. He knows where the fun's happening. He knows how to have fun, and he said it was great. He brought his wife and his youngin' down here, and they had a good time. I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to see him. My schedule was not going the way I was thinking it was going to go. So, stuff happens though. But I'm glad he made it. Captain Marty. Yeah. Hey, Captain Marty and I, it is tournament season for the captain and I. So I'm going to be out and about with the captain at the Boat Builders tournament coming up here at the end of this month. We got the Pirates Cove Big Game tournament coming up the first part of August. There's Alice Kelly. The captain and I are going to be quite busy, but the captain is never too busy for his fans. If you are in need, and I say in need, of a Captain Marty fishing guide, an autographed copy of the Captain Marty fishing guide, let me know. Justin at OuterBanksThisWeek.com, and I will get one in the mail to you. All of the recent requests I've got, I believe, have been fulfilled. They have been mailed, I'm quite certain. I'm going to double check that, but I did get it in the hands of our accountant / secretary / jack of all trades, Miss Estella, and I believe she got them all mailed out. But I'll double check with her. But if you want one, let me know. Justin at OuterBanksThisWeek.com. I've got a few autographed copies sitting next to me right now. I can gladly get them out to you, okay? The captain loves his people. He does. The captain really does. So, and if you're at the Boat Builders tournament, you happen to come by there at the end of August, the end of July, or the first part of August at the Pirates Cove tournament, come by and say hey to the captain. He would love to say hello. I'll be out there hanging out with him too, but make sure you give that captain all sorts of love. All right, quick break. When we come back, I'm going to jump into a couple of shout outs. I really only have a few, but hey, before any of that, Matty P, the resurgence of Matty P. I don't know why I said resurgence, because he's been here for a few weeks now. But Matty P, he's coming at you right now with OBX After Dark.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Matty P, back with another edition of OBX After Dark, all brought to you by the Jolly Roger, located at milepost 6 3/4 on the Beach Road in Kill Devil Hills. Look, man, go check out the Jolly Roger. If you're looking for some good breakfast, good dinner, or something to do here at night, Jolly Roger is the place to be. You can check out their menu at jollyrogerobx.com. Let's get right into it, man. I hope y'all had a happy 4th of July, had a safe night, enjoyed the fireworks on the beach, maybe had a few drinks with the homies. And look, man, afterwards, I hope y'all went on down to the spot that I was at this week, man. I was at the Jolly Roger this week, and they had the R.T. Johnson Band, y'all. And the R.T. Johnson Band was rocking all night long, man. And look, since it was the 4th of July, you already know the fireworks were having a second round there at the Jolly Roger. And let me get right into this, man. The BPL for the R.T. Johnson Band at the Jolly Roger was a 9.2. A 9.2 BPL, y'all. And look, this year we've had a lot of high scores, but I think that's a great thing, and I think y'all do too. Come back next week. Join me for another episode of OBX After Dark. You gotta get in where you fit in, y'all. Yeah, I mean, 4 letters, 1 word. Yeet.
An experience unlike any other on the Outer Banks. The Lost Colony, presented by PNC Bank, features harrowing fights, incredible costumes, and jaw-dropping special effects to tell the story of the first settlers of the Outer Banks. Bring the whole family to experience this remarkable show under the stars on Roanoke Island. Running May 29th through August 23rd. Visit thelostcolony.org.
Are you ready for a fishing thrill like no other?
Oh, there he is! There he is! Oh, got him up!
As seen on WikiTune at Outer Banks, the Carolina Girl, captained by majestic Jesse Anderson, is a custom, luxurious 53-foot Jarrett Bay built boat running out of Hatteras Harbor Marina. Let Jesse and her crew give you a fishing experience of a lifetime. To book a trip, go online to CarolinaGirlSportFishing.com. Carolina Girl Sport Fishing, your offshore adventure awaits.
All right, we're going to jump into some shout outs real quick. And again, if you are an avid listener of the podcast, I would love to give you a shout out. Justin at Outer Banks This Week .com is where you can find me. Again, like I said, I've said before, if you got any questions about anything going on the Outer Banks, you need some more information about something, just please, I reply to my emails. Y'all know I do. Justin at OuterBanksThisWeek.com. I want to give a shout out real quick. Something that I hate that I had forgotten about it, but I don't know. Like, I really have no excuse, but I want to give a shout out to Joanna's Cafe Lachine food truck at the Juan Cheese Tiki Hut down at Safe Harbor. My brother and I hung out this weekend, and we were trying to figure out something for dinner. We had the boys and my wife, and we were like, what we will do about dinner tonight? And I didn't want pizza. I feel like I've eaten pizza forever. Every weekend, I feel like I have a piece of pizza at some point. I was like, I don't want pizza. He's like, well, let's go down to the food truck, Joanna's food truck at the Juan Cheese Tiki Bar at Safe Harbor. I said, let's go. Went down there, had these buffalo chicken tacos with some sort of sauce on the top. Man, they were out of this world. The wings were amazing. The chips and queso was amazing. There wasn't a bad thing that you could get to eat there. The environment was great. It was nice because there was a cool breeze. It wasn't super hot under there. Lots of great folks wandering around. Saw some people I hadn't seen in a long time. I'm going to give one of them a shout out here in a little bit. But it was all around just a great atmosphere, some music playing, nothing too crazy. Now, they do have entertainment there throughout the week and on the weekends, but this specific night, it was just a wonderful atmosphere to be in. The kids were having fun playing some games. There was like a life-size Connect 4 game sort of thing, and they had some cornhole boards set up, and the kids were just having fun doing that. While we ate, my brother and my wife had a couple of cocktails. I say cocktails. I believe it's just beer and wine down there. And they have like something called Tiki Punch. My wife had a couple of those. My brother had a couple of beverages. But again, I just want to shout out to them. And if you get a chance to go down to Joanna's food truck at Juan Cheese Tiki Hut at Safe Harbor Marina right there on Harbor Road, please take advantage of it. Take advantage of it. You can go see my uncle J-Pop on Paradise Dolphin Cruises if you want as well. So anyway, all that being said, I just want to give them a shout out. And I did see some friends of mine, Heather Bridges and Tia Stetson. Now, I hadn't seen them in a while. And Tia was talking to me about, she asked if I was still doing radio. And I was like, nah, I'm not doing that anymore. But I do have a podcast. And she's like, oh, we looked it up right then and there on her Apple Play, and she subscribed right then and there. And I said, now you have landed yourself on my shout out list. So with that being said, Tia, thank you for subscribing to the podcast. Hopefully you'll give it a listen or two. Heather, it was great to see you down there at the marina. So that's my shout out list for the week. Okay. Again, if you are a listener to the podcast, I would love to give you a shout out. Justin at OuterBanksThisWeek.com. Another quick break. But when we come back, we're going to talk to Miss Sarah Hollis Himmelwright of the Coastal Federation about what she does, how she got involved with the Coastal Federation, all the different ins and outs about the Coastal Federation and how they support local working watermen and the upkeep of our estuaries, our coastal waters, and our wetlands and our marshes and everything like that. So we'll talk to her all about that when we come back.
Let's be real. No one wants to deal with nasty varmints like mice, roaches, creepy crawlies, and critters. Leave that work to the experts at Outer Banks Pest Control. Outer Banks Pest Control is the best on the beach when it comes to eradicating those unwanted creatures. They've been in business for over 25 years with well over 100 years of combined exterminating experience. Specializing in both commercial and residential properties, Outer Banks Pest Control has all the tools and equipment necessary to take on any pesky job. They pride themselves on top quality customer service and workmanship. Hey, if it ain't red and yellow, it's just some coattail riding fella. Outer Banks Pest Control, the best on the beach with a proven track record of excellence since the year 2000 and online at outerbanks-pestcontrol.com.
What could possibly be more fun than watching a bottlenose dolphin swim and play in the water right beside you? Hop aboard Harbor Star Dolphin Tours at Juan Cheese Marina and witness this remarkable animal up close. The Harbor Star is a spacious 50-foot vessel with a wide, shady canopy that runs 2-hour trips multiple times a day, including a breathtaking sunset cruise. To book your tour, go online to juancheesemarina.com and click Harbor Star Dolphin Tours. See the majestic bottlenose dolphin up close with Harbor Star Dolphin Tours.
All right, as promised, I have Miss Sarah Hollis Himmelwright. Okay, I want to call her Shh for some reason because SHH. I mean, has anybody done that to you yet?
Not yet.
Not yet.
No, but it can be your nickname for me.
Well, I don't know why, but when I was like spelling everything out, I was like SHH. That's shh. Anyway. Sarah, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm glad you were able to come in here with me today, talk about the Coastal Federation and all that it does to help preserve the estuaries and the ecosystems here in the waters of the Outer Banks and, I mean, further south and whatnot. Let's start with you. Now, who is Sarah Hollis Himmelwright? Or I'm just going to call you Sarah because that's just a mouthful. So who is Sarah?
Thank you. Thanks for having me today. Glad to share my story and excited for this platform and audience to share more about the North Carolina Coastal Federation and the work that we do. Sarah is a common name, so I do have a lot of nicknames. Sarah Blue Jean. I have an aunt that calls me SJHH for all the initials.
Yes.
Or Chalice was the nickname I had in college.
Okay.
I know, it's a lot. So whatever you prefer. I was born and raised in Northeast Ohio. Went to school at Wittenberg University in Ohio. That's between Columbus and Dayton.
Okay.
And majored in biology, Bachelor of Science in Biology, and a dance minor. Keep my fitness, hence my fitness history. And in searching for jobs, I found a job right out of college at the aquarium as a seasonal instructor in their special activities department here in Manio.
Okay, so had you been to the Outer Banks before that? Never been here?
I had never been to the Outer Banks before I moved here for my first job in 2004.
So were you just randomly looking online at employment and next thing you know, it's
I was a college graduate looking for a job after school and I applied for a lot of things, East Coast and West Coast. My mom was glad I stayed a little bit closer
a
drivable distance and I moved here sight unseen for my first job out of school. Thanks to Beth Wilcox, who trusted me and hired me in their special activities department as a seasonal instructor. And back then they provided housing, which was a really nice thing.
Yes,
so
beneficial.
I packed everything I could fit in my car, moved here after college. I knew I had a job for 8 months and I could either look for another job or I knew I could move back home and start the job search over. And I never left.
Well, so here you are.
And so here I am, like a true Outer Banker. I had a lot of jobs to piece things together along the way, including working at the aquarium, and I worked at the Gap Outlet for a while.
Okay.
Made a lot of friends there, an Eddie Bauer outlet. And then I was active at the YMCA because I enjoyed fitness and staying busy. Because
that's another job. You teach at one of our local facilities here. You teach a CrossFit class.
I do. Mm-hmm. And that's where I met my friends who led me to CrossFit. So I met the woman who owns the dance studio I work for now, who owned it at the time. I met Miss Miriam teaching Pilates there. I ended up getting my Pilates certification and teaching Pilates at the Y. And then when I was teaching Pilates, I met the Tracy who ran CrossFit Outer Banks. She introduced me into CrossFit, which led me to get my certification and still teach today.
Yes, yes. Very good at it, by the way. She's very good. One of my very first classes at Roanoke Island Fitness Club was Miss Sarah Hollis's class. And I learned very well how to inhale both arms tall, exhale, float them down. Yes. Good times. Good times. That's how I know Sarah personally. So
that's a little bit of the dance and Pilates, adding your breathing to your everyday movements.
Yes. So you started at the aquarium, but then after some time, you moved to the Coastal Federation.
So it was the seasonal position at the aquarium and looking for full-time employment with benefits in my science and environmental field. And I lucked out because at that time, the North Carolina Coastal Federation was just opening a new office for this region in Manio. They opened their office in 2008 and added the position that I have today.
Okay. So now what is exactly your job title with the Coastal Federation?
I'm the Education and Outreach Director.
Okay, the education. So this is part of outreach right here.
Yes.
See? We're helping you with that part of your job.
Yes, thank you.
So I went online and of course I got to do my homework. And one thing I kind of want to do before we really jump into things is draw kind of two pieces apart, because I, for the longest time, believed that the Coastal Federation and the North Carolina, or the Coastal Studies Institute rather, were the same thing, and they're not. So let's pull those apart. So what are the differences between the Coastal Federation and the Coastal Studies Institute?
The North Carolina Coastal Federation is a nonprofit, member-supported organization. And so we do education, restoration, and advocacy. And I think that's the main difference, being a nonprofit, and we also have the ability to do advocacy work. I work out of our office here in Wanchese, but we have 2 other offices on the North Carolina coast. Our headquarters is in Carteret County in Ocean or near Newport. And we have another field office in Wrightsville Beach. And so then our audiences are reaching all 20 coastal counties.
So your office is in Wanchese on Harbor Road, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so you are not at the Coastal Studies Institute. That is more for
just
college educational type stuff over there.
And we do a lot of partnership projects with the Coastal Studies Institute. The biggest difference is that they are affiliated with the university system.
Right.
And so their main partner is East Carolina University, but they would have a series of other university partners. So we overlap in some of our restoration and our education work. But the biggest difference is that they would have a lot of research funded positions, student research positions, and we wouldn't have as much research focus in our nonprofit advocacy work.
Right. Okay. So the Coastal Studies Institute, or not the Coastal Studies, excuse me. You got me talking about both. The Coastal Federation got its start back in 1982, and it was over something about some strip mining for peat. Is that right? How does that story go? Can you tell me about that?
That is correct. That was one of our first major projects. So the Coastal Federation was established by Todd Miller, and he was our executive director for over 40 years. And he was born and raised in Carteret County, so central North Carolina coast, and had seen just a lot of changes along our shorelines with development and changing of the land uses. And this was a project happening in our region where they wanted to mine the lands to access peat in what is now Alligator River National Wildlife Refuge.
Oh, that's interesting.
And so it was part of our advocacy work, getting voices from the area it goes with our mission of bringing together all walks of life. So the fishermen and the farmers, everyone who lived and worked off of the land knew that this would destroy the water quality there and end their livelihoods, essentially. And so bringing everybody together with a common voice for water quality is a good example of a lot of the work that we do. And we brought everyone together to protect that land and keep it protected as it is today.
Yes, and I know a lot of people, they go out there riding around on the refuge looking for black bears and a lot of the wildlife out there. So the red wolves and all that. I mean, without the Coastal Federation, a lot of that stuff probably would not exist. So it's great that they took that step, and wasn't it Mr. Miller took that bold step and leap of faith to initiate this. And I believe it actually gained some national recognition, for everything that was going on there. So definitely a way to get started. And here we are over 40 years later, still kicking. Let's see here. I was looking again at the website, nccoast.org, and I was looking over your priorities, and of course, water quality being one of them, and 15,000 acres of wetland restored, billions of gallons of stormwater runoff reduced. Can we talk a little about the water quality stuff?
So our main mission is protecting water quality in these public and outdoor habitats. And the number one cause of water pollution off of the North Carolina coast is from stormwater runoff. So when it rains, that rainwater washes everything the water comes in contact with out to our sounds and to our oceans. So that's big things that we see, like trash and litter, microscopic things you can't see, like chemicals from fertilizers and pesticides, or gas or oil dripped on the road, bacteria from animal waste. And historically, we had a lot of natural land spaces that could hold and store and filter that water on its own. But now we live, on these very narrow barrier islands, and we have to send that runoff to the waterways where we have room to hold and store them. And so now our approach to protecting water quality is thinking about how can we mimic nature to have some of these natural filters to protect itself. And so restoring our wetlands is one of those major approaches that a place can naturally hold and store water. The roots of all of those plants are going to filter out some of those excess nutrients, or even trap the water so that the heat of the sun can evaporate it, and then it's not stormwater runoff, and it wouldn't be carrying those sources of pollution to our waterways. So we have a whole water quality program mostly focused on nature-based solutions. So supporting nature to protect herself.
Well, I can tell. Like, we're going to talk about a nature point here in just a moment that I'm aware of, but I don't know that everybody's aware of. So one of the things that we have the most of in the world, well, in the United States, we'll say it that way, is our salt marshes. Okay, 220, excuse me, these numbers, 220,000 acres of salt marshes, and these estuaries, they provide habitats for fish, help improve the water qualities, things you just talked about, and help protect coastal communities from flooding. You want to talk a little bit more about the marsh and everything that goes around with the estuaries there?
Yes, we live in a very special place. The Pamlico Sound is the second largest estuary in the United States.
No kidding.
And so an estuary is that mix of that fresh and salt water. So it's a brackish water marsh, and so a type of salt marsh in the estuary. And so we would have that in our backyard, a very important place to keep protected and keep natural. So the estuary is a place where young animals will go to lay their eggs and raise their young. So sometimes it's nicknamed the nursery of the sea. And so we want to protect those habitats so that we have the juvenile animals to go through their reproductive life cycles. And then when they're ready or need to, they can swim out to deeper waters or migrate as needed. But the salt marsh provides that natural habitat for animals, but it's also protecting our shorelines as well. So when we have hurricanes or high tides or flooding, the salt marsh grasses would be able to absorb or hold a lot of that water back so that it would reduce negative impacts from us living and working here.
So speaking of, I want to rewind just a little bit real quick. I thought about this and I should have mentioned it a minute ago, but like, it should be noted that Sarah is married to a commercial fisherman. So it works out really well that like you have this job and that your husband is a commercial fisherman, world renowned at that. And I just think that it's like the power couple of like the waterways in a lot of ways. I just wanted to throw that out there real quick, you know? So I wanted to make mention of that.
We have that in common.
Yes.
And that we all need good water quality to survive. We can't survive without clean water, and our plants and animals can't survive without clean water, and our commercial fishermen wouldn't have a job without healthy water quality.
Let's move on. So another one of the priorities I noticed was oysters. Why oysters? Why not shrimp? Why not clams? Why oysters?
Oysters are one of those natural filters, and we're thinking about nature-based solutions. And oysters are a filter just by surviving. So an oyster is a living animal inside, has the gills to breathe. So it's pulling water in to eat and breathe and pushes that excess water back out. And in turn, one adult oyster, which is about 3 inches, can filter 50 gallons of water a day.
No kid. Wow. Okay. There's a fun fact.
And so by restoring more oyster reefs, we would have more water quality that is filtered. And then, of course, we would, support projects for all different livelihoods, including recreational and commercial fishermen. So we want to have oyster reefs that are open to harvesting, but we also want to have oyster reefs that are serving as the water quality benefits and providing habitat for starting the whole food chain for fish and animals to live around this reef and to continue that population.
Well, I love it because you got kind of like a little, it's jobs, local food, more fish, clean water, and profits. So there's a lot there to be had. The oysters provide a lot of different things for you got your commercial fishermen, for the waterways themselves, and the water quality. So like a lot of people, that's one thing I wanted to, when I said a minute ago, we're going to talk more about some of the filtration and whatnot. That was something I wanted to make sure to mention that people don't realize that about oysters. And who doesn't love a good, I'm not crazy about them raw. I'm going to be honest. You give me a steamed oyster with some Texas Pete and a cracker, I'm good to go. Give me some fried oysters. I'm going to smash them to pieces. I love them. I love them. Again, not crazy about them straight out the shell like that, but I think they're great.
There's a lot of varieties, and the oysters give us that benefit to the environment and to the economy. So we have a balance of ways that oysters can be harvested from the wild reefs, And so maybe you heard that you should only eat oysters, in a month with an R in it. And so that's no longer true. That would just be for wild harvest oysters, is when our wild season is open from October through March. But now we also support other ways of growing oysters through a type of farming, so an oyster aquaculture. And we have a lot of oyster leases now along the North Carolina coast, almost 500 oyster leases.
Oh, wow.
Just for North Carolina. So being able to get the oyster seed and grow them in gear right in the open water. So they're still providing all of the environmental benefits of filtering the water and creating habitat. But then those oyster seed are grown so that they do not reproduce. And then the oyster farmer is able to harvest those at a faster rate than the wild oysters. And so this gives us a chance to have oysters year round. So if you see oysters on the menu now or over the summer, it would have been from an oyster aquaculture or farm raised oyster.
So, I mean, that's a fun thing to mention, because I know that, like, sometimes I will look at a menu if I'm at a restaurant and I'll see oysters. I'm like, well, they're not in season right now. You know what I mean? And it's like, well, wait a minute now, that it's not exactly true, because of the different things that are being done nowadays. They are fresh oysters, it's just cultivated in a different way.
So we have a variety of ways to access them. And this is also supporting the economy by creating other jobs. So even an oyster grower has to have a commercial fishing license to be able to start the oyster lease and be able to harvest the oysters. All of that is, through a permit process and overseen through the state agencies.
That's pretty awesome. That's good to know. People needed to know that.
And if you'd like to eat oysters, we have an oyster shell recycling program, because in order for an oyster to grow in the wild, a wild harvest oyster, it needs another surface area to stick onto and start growing. So the oyster larvae are microscopic like plankton floating around in the water. They're only alive for about 2 weeks. And in that time frame, it has to stick onto another hard substrate. So that could be a bottom of a boat or a pier piling or another oyster shell. And so if we put those shells back into the water where those oysters already have natural reefs that are growing and reproducing, it would increase their chance of continuing to survive. So if you eat oysters, we're trying to expand the public drop-off sites where you can take your own shells, including we have a drop-off site at the aquarium in Manio and at Jockey's Ridge State Park. The Nature Conservancy in Nags Head Woods are some of the closest sites you can take your shell to, or even to our office in Wanchese. And then we're working with local restaurants that serve oysters to also save and recycle their shell, because it's a limited, natural resource, the animal made its shell. So we want to put those back into the water to keep growing these wild reefs.
This Oysters 101 with Sarah here on the Outer Banks This Week podcast.
And I was excited for all these education opportunities.
Well, let's move on to another piece of this. One of y'all's priorities is marine debris. Now, I know you personally with the Federation have been heavily involved in this piece. I know that you have held events where you have gone out and actually removed. I remember one time you found a crab pot buoy with Bateman on it, and you're like, is this yours, or do you know whose this belongs to? So let's talk a little bit about the marine debris piece of this.
Yeah, so marine debris is one of our major programs that we focus on in our mission to protect water quality. Marine debris is a challenging one because it could be as small as microplastics in the water to as large as fishing gear and abandoned vessels and boats. And so we, as a nonprofit, we have to apply for different sources of funding between state grants and federal grants and even private foundations, in addition to being a member-supported organization. And so we would apply for certain grants to be able to remove marine debris from our coast and our waterways. Part of our goal is to have a coast that is free of marine debris. I hope that I can see that in my lifetime, but I don't know. So it's a little bit more than just continuing to clean up after ourselves or each other, clean up the marine debris, but also there's some policy and a little bit more understanding of where the debris is coming from so that we can stop the cycle from happening. And so one of our first marine debris projects started here. I'll give a shout out to my friend Lad Bayless, who joined partnership with commercial fishermen to start the Lost Fishing Gear Recovery Program. So every January, when the waters are closed to harvesting blue crabs, any crab pots that are left in the water are considered lost or abandoned. And we work with North Carolina Marine Patrol that gives us permission to remove those pots from the water. And so knowing that commercial fishermen have the boats and knowledge of the waterways and the hard work ethic in January to go out on the water and remove fishing gear, we've been able to apply for grant funding the last 10 or 11 years to run that project. Every January when the waters are closed, we would hire the commercial fishermen to help us find and retrieve those lost crab pots from the sounds. And that started in our region, so in the northeast part of the coast, and has since expanded coastwide. And that was sort of the first marine debris project for the Coastal Federation, and expanded from there. So we know that there's some projects that we would hire out through contract work like that, from fishing gear. We also hire commercial fishermen as contractors for, we would define as large scale marine debris. So this started after hurricanes in the central and southeast coast after Hurricane Florence. Similar approach, we hire commercial fishermen to use their boats and knowledge of the waterways to retrieve large pieces of wood and tires and pieces of debris that have floated into the marsh after a storm. And that started years ago, and the crews are continuing today, still finding debris, not necessarily hurricane related, but water moves heavy objects, large distances, and wood floats. And so treated wood has been the top item of marine debris that we have found, that our crews have found. And so then our marine debris work has expanded from there. So we know there's some projects too big for volunteers, though we also have volunteer projects. So in our office starting in Manteo in 2008 and 2016, we grew again and we moved to Wanchese, where we're in the Marine Industrial Park. And with that, we adopted the Highway 345 between Coastal Studies Institute and like the Shell Station there in Wanchese. So we have our volunteer cleanups a few times a year to get folks out and hands-on and cleaning up the roadside debris with us. And so we focus our effort on areas that are less traveled. So we are not an organization that does as many beach cleanups. So we're going to do our roadsides, which is really the marsh. The road goes through the marsh.
It really is.
And we do some boat ramp cleanups and other things through our other offices coastwide.
So it should be noted that since 2019, y'all have removed over 4 million pounds of debris.
And counting. Yeah, I just put in some new numbers in our spreadsheet before I came over here this morning. Yes.
Well, I just got to ask you, I know I've seen some of your posts on social media after you've done some of these roadside cleanups, and I just was wondering, how many empty bottles or even partially empty bottles of Johnny Bootlegger have you picked up?
I know, a lot. I don't know if I've kept track over all of the years. There's been some cleanups that I've set them aside just to count how many in one cleanup effort. But I'm sure it's been hundreds, if not thousands.
What's one of the wildest things that you found while, I mean, in not just on, doing when you do the roadside stuff, the Adopt a Highway thing, which I think is amazing, but just while you've been out with some of these cleanups, these different marine debris cleanups, what's one of the wildest things that you've ever found? Can you say?
Well, that's where I learned about what Johnny Bootlegger is. Okay. I was not familiar with that product before, finding the empty glass bottles on the highway. Very scarily, we find a lot of empty alcohol bottles on the side of the road, which makes me nervous for traveling that area. Just recently, one of our contract crews found this empty helium tank that someone had used like at a birthday party to blow up balloons or something. There have been some random items that you may not expect, but that is something that everyone can help with if you are doing your cleanups on your own. Collecting data is an important part of that. So there's a lot of free apps that you could download to help us track the items that are being found to better understand the sources of marine debris and better work towards prevention as a solution, rather than, like I said, just in an endless cycle of cleaning up after each other. And it's a good tie-in to one of our coastal management examples in our advocacy work. So with our marine debris crews, mostly finding treated wood and lumber on their cleanup routes, we were able to trace that back to a lot of docks and piers that were inadequately built along the coast.
Okay.
Especially after a storm, and they were, rebuilt quickly. And then we saw some of those same docks wash out the next hurricane season. And so in an effort, we advocated to have better building codes for our coastal structures. And we were successful in advocating to put docks and piers into a state building code. So back into state building code. So any new coastal dock or pier has to go through an engineering and permitting process so that it's built better to withstand our coastal storms, so that we don't have to clean up that treated wood year after year.
Okay.
And so that is information we're getting ready to put out a guide for homeowners to better understand that. And so that's a great example of how the advocacy work we do is tied to the experiences that we're seeing in the field. And there was a long history of that. Docks and piers used to be part of state building code statewide, but they found that it wasn't really necessary to have such strict requirements for some of the inland counties. And so someone had fought it and had it completely taken out of our state building code. And so the compromise is putting it back into state building code only for the 20 coastal counties, where we can see it would maybe have a more positive impact.
There you go. Okay.
So we're excited for that.
Well, that's a good thing to kind of go along with the coastal management piece of this, because you work with a multitude of stakeholders, engage them in sound coastal management decisions based on the best science and technology. So I was reading over that, and I mean, y'all work with an array of different folks, throughout, in government and stuff like that, just to keep them aware. So that way, when things like you just talked about with building codes comes about, you can be like, well, hold on now. This wasn't necessarily a bad thing. Y'all didn't think it applied, but in reality, it does.
Right.
So
we are a small staff, and so we require a lot of partners and volunteers to help us to get our work done. So we probably have about 40 full-time staff members spread out among our 3 offices. And including, we have a lobbyist that works for us on a contract basis in Raleigh. So we're able to share some of the work that we're doing that's important to protecting water quality, and then lobby for it specifically to our North Carolina legislators.
That's pretty cool. Now, you just educated us on a lot of things, and education is a huge part of what you do. And of course, that is also right up your alley.
That is my main role.
So talk to me about these programs, these educational programs.
We have a full-time educator in each of our 3 offices, and then it is our job to communicate the work that we're doing in each of these program areas through water quality, restoring oysters and salt marsh, and reducing marine debris to our communities. And so that is a variety of approaches, from working with students in the classroom and taking these lessons as it relates to our state essential standards, and working with students in the community in the local classrooms. Some of our schools, we have projects right on their school grounds, including some here that we have rain gardens as a nature-based solution, including at Mania Middle School and First Flight Middle School and First Flight Elementary School. So I would work with those students and take them outside a couple times a year to observe the native plants in those rain gardens, and it ties into some of their science standards and curriculum. We have students that would visit our offices for programs, including visiting our field sites. So some of our restoring salt marsh work, we have projects called Living Shorelines. Our closest one that I bring a lot of groups to is at Jockey's Ridge State Park. That's another good success story, but before it was a state park, there was threatened development.
Yes.
And so that northernmost section of the park is why we chose to do our Living Shoreline project there. And it was working with students that had learned about it in the classroom with me, and then came to the site. So that helped us to restore the oyster reef there and to plant the marsh grasses to create the living shoreline that it is today. So the students can visit our field sites or visit us in a variety of ways.
That's pretty rad. Now, I know that you also do some other things whenever like the seafood festival comes around and stuff like that.
Yep.
Like I was out last year at the educational tent, and lo and behold, there's Sarah right there. And of course, I think I actually put you on the mic a couple of times. So
would be another way that we can reach and connect with our community. I would categorize that more as our outreach work. And we would also want to reach, adults and families as well. So we would do community events like that. I just actually signed up for one of the Soundside markets later this month to try that out as well. Just a way to meet and connect with the community and share about the work that we're doing and ways to get other people involved.
So let's talk about this involvement real quick.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the key things here is to raise awareness for the Coastal Federation, to get people involved. What's the best way for them to find you? Is it online? How would you suggest them going about finding you?
Yes, I'd invite everyone to learn more about our work if they are so interested. You can visit our website, which is nccoast.org. And that's going to show work for all of our offices there. We do have, if you go to the Get Involved, I think there's a public events calendar there, so you can see events that are coming up. But again, that would be for all 3 of our offices. And then you can subscribe to get a free newsletter on our website, that subscribe button. We send out one email newsletter a month that would highlight our current work and our projects.
Oh, you can get a license plate too.
Yes, that is one of our recurring funding sources.
Look at that. Look at that.
That's what my license plate is. You
yes,
can
it
even
is.
customize your license plate if you want. We have a license plate program. So you can visit our website to explore our projects and learn more about our work. You can follow us on social media if you're not already. We have NC Coastal Federation on Facebook, and it's just at NC Coastal Fed. On Instagram would be our main platforms. Another great tool that we created to learn about our work is an online news service called the Coastal Review Online.
Saw that. I didn't click on it though. Where is it?
So coastalreview.org is another website, but we have 2 Coastal Federation staff members that are the editors for that news source, but then we have a lot of writers that are, working for us as a contract basis on stories. And so it's an unbiased news source that we took matters into our own hands as a way of getting information out there, seeing traditional journalism fading over the years, and the newspapers are getting smaller and smaller. And we thought, how can we better get the word out, but change with the technology? And so we started this online newspaper of sorts. And so there's a daily story every day, Monday through Friday. We also would share press releases or other news briefs that are focused on science issues and specific to North Carolina. And it's a great way to get information out there as far as important current events in the science world in North Carolina. So we would invite people to read the Coastal Review online or share an article that you've enjoyed with a friend to help us spread our message.
Dewey Himmelwright, Advocates for U.S. Commercial Fishing Fleet, written by Kip Tabb. About Dewey, who is this guy?
And there is a recent article featuring my husband on Coastal Review Online. Dewey is a very passionate advocate for the commercial fishing industry. He does a lot of great work, and they recently wrote a story on a little bit of what he does. It's only a small piece of the story. And he was just recently nominated to the South Atlantic Fishery Management Council in an appointed position.
I read that not long ago.
He will be continuing his fishery advocacy. Mm-hmm.
See, I have a feeling the next step is the Commercial Fishing Hall of Fame for him.
There is such a thing. Yes,
there should be. There should be.
There is. He'll create it. Maybe he can establish it.
That would be pretty. That would be pretty cool, though. There was a Commercial Fishing Hall of Fame. I really think that would be an awesome thing. But so I also noticed that if people want to join, they can set up to do reoccurring. You only have to. So let me just issue this. You only have to make a one-time annual donation to become a member. But you could also, if you really wanted to go that extra mile, you could do the reoccurring monthly donation. Was it a minimum of $35? Is that right? Talk to me about that real quick.
Yes. Other ways to get involved, we would invite you to join the Coastal Federation as a member, which would be at least an annual donation of at least $35. but it certainly can give more if you would like. We're running a fun summer membership special that if you join now through late September, you'll be entered into a raffle to win a weekend for two in Wilmington, North Carolina. So it's at Aloft Wilmington at the Coastline Center. And it also comes with a $100 gift certificate to the restaurant there.
What?
Mm-hmm. And
Dude.
so that's it. Yep. To new or renewing members that join this summer.
So if the more money you give, the more odds you get of winning. Is that how that works?
Oh, well, I think joining gets entered in the raffle once, unless you know somebody that becomes a member and wants to gift you their winning
Probably
raffle
not going
item.
to happen, but it's a nice thought.
Mm-hmm. Well, yep, there are lots of ways to support our work. And so all these membership fees help to support our work going on year round. As a nonprofit organization, we have to raise our own funds to support our organization from seeking those state and federal grants. We also do fundraising events. We have a big fundraising event coming up on the Central Coast in September, which is our big yearly event in Morehead City on September 20th, a little farther from us. Our fundraising event for the Northeast is our Hatteras Island Oyster Roast.
Yes.
It's a little ways out, but if folks want to save the date, it'll be the first Saturday in February, which is February 7th, 2026.
Let's go ahead and put this in the calendar. February 7th, 2026.
And so we would rely on events like this as well to support our efforts as a nonprofit holding these fundraising events. Each of those events I just mentioned, the Taste of the Coast in Morehead City and the Hatteras Island Oyster Roast, we often have silent auctions that go along with them. So if there are listeners outside the area, you can still support our work by bidding on an item in the silent auction. And even if you don't have to be present to win, we can mail you those items so you can support our work from afar.
There you go. You hear this? Support the work from afar. Well, Sarah, I appreciate you coming in. You've been a wealth of knowledge. You've shared some great information about the Coastal Federation. And I greatly appreciate you being here today. Any other shout outs? You shouted out to your husband.
I shouted out to a few people.
Yes.
I appreciate all the staff of the Coastal Federation. I invite everyone to learn more about ways to get involved. I'm sure we would hear people say they don't have time to be a volunteer. Maybe they don't have the resources to donate. Even by listening to this podcast, you are helping to support our work just by learning and gaining an understanding. As an educator, that's our approach. We believe that if people have a better understanding of something, they would be more likely to have a passion to help us take care of it. So I hope that I have inspired a future environmental steward to help me to take care of the coast. So we all play a role in helping get to those clean water quality solutions.
I love it. I love it. See, and the thing is that's true. I mean, the more you know, the more you learn about it and everything like that, the more likely you are to want to support or be a part of. And that's cool. And that's very true. I never really thought about it like that. Well, Sarah, again, I appreciate you coming in and talking to us about the Coastal Federation. And again, if anything we can do here at the Outer Banks This Week podcast to help continue support the cause, you let us know, and we'll get you right back in here and we'll put it back out there for you.
I will. Thank you very much. Thank you,
right.
Justin.
Thank you. Real.
That's the first word that comes to mind when I think about Outland Seafood in Mans Harbor. Yeah, they're the first and last place you see coming to and leaving the Outer Banks on Highway 64 in Dare County, but they're also real when it comes to fresh local seafood. Troy Outland, real. Curtis and Josh, real. The indoor crab shedders, real. Stop by and see for yourself right next to White Shopping Center and check them out on social media. Outland Seafood in Mans Harbor, real.
From the moment you leave the dock, the Crystal Dawn out of Pirates Cove Marina in Manio will take you on a seafaring excursion you'll never forget. Whether it be a sunset cruise, birthday party, wedding, or a celebration of any kind, the 65-foot spacious Crystal Dawn would love to be the vessel that helps create a lifetime of memories. They are Coast Guard certified to carry up to 97 passengers. To book your private trip in paradise, go online to crystaldawnheadboat.com. Your view of heaven can be found on the deck of the Crystal Dawn.
All right, now's the time when we jump into some events. And all these events that I'm going to mention and more. I hate that so much. Why do I say that? And more. I'll tell you what, I've gotten to the point now where when I listen to local FM radio, I count how many times in a specific ad they say fresh local seafood, fresh seafood, and more. Because there's always more and more. So again, I'm not really trying to clown on local FM radio. I'm really not, but it's just the redundancy of fresh local seafood, and more. Sorry. So again, everything that I'm going to mention right now and more can be found online at OuterBanksThisWeek.com. Click on the events tab and you can see them in their entirety. So let's take a look at this upcoming weekend. There's a lot of things going on in Duck. There's some stuff going on. Oh, wait. I got ahead of myself. I must first talk about what's going on with Live from OBX. So coming up Tuesday, July 22nd, is Whiskey Myers with Josh Malloy and the Drop Tines. And Wednesday, July 23rd is Aaron Lewis and the State Liners with Colin Stowe and RT Johnson. Now, gates are going to open at 5. Show's going to start at 6, okay? You can go online to livefromobx.com to get tickets. I am trying right now to work with the management group to get an interview with Whiskey Myers. And if that happens, if I can get an interview with Whiskey Myers, I will be dropping a special edition of the Outer Banks This Week podcast. So just keep your ears open, keep everything subscribed for all of that. I do believe, see, RT Johnson is somebody that I know personally. I could probably get an interview with him, no problem, but I'm shooting for Whiskey Myers. I'll let you know if that happens. But again, livefromobx.com is where you can get tickets and more information about how you can see the entire lineup for this summer. But yes, Whiskey Myers with Josh Malloy and the Drop Tines coming up on Tuesday, July 22nd. And Wednesday, July 23rd is Aaron Lewis and the State Liners with Colin Stowe and RT Johnson. Again, gates are at 5. The shows are going to start at 6. Let's see. Back to what I was originally going down the list of things going on in Duck, stuff going on out at Alligator River with the canoe tour, things going on down at the Frisco Native American Museum. This is stuff going on this coming Thursday, July 10th, or if it's already Thursday, July 10th, and you're listening early on. Let's look at Friday. See, there's so many different activities and things that are taking place. I can't talk about them all, or I would have to do an entire podcast for 2 hours about just every event that's coming up on the Outer Banks. It's funny I see this because it says that First Friday is this coming Friday, July 11th. I believe they counted last Friday as just a 4th of July celebration and wasn't really First Friday. So they're celebrating First Friday this Friday, July 11th from 6 until 8 in downtown Mania. That's just another big street party. And let me tell you something, it is a lot of fun. Lots of things going on at the Elizabethan Gardens. There's things going on at the North Carolina Aquarium. Buffalo City Distillery is going to be having some live music on Friday evening from 6 until 9. Same thing with Fish Heads has got live music. There's a DJ night at Lost Colony Tavern this coming Friday, starting at 8 o'clock. And of course, there's always the Lost Colony show itself going on at Waterside Theater at the north end of Manio. Continuing on down the line, we've got Manio Downtown Market. Okay, that's something that I've got to go do a podcast from, and I plan to do that in the very near future. Happening every Saturday between now and September 13th in downtown Manio from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. So it's over at the Creef Park on the, I guess you could say, the south side of downtown. Definitely lots of different crafters and vendors out there and different people with their services. They would love for you to come pay them a visit. Lots of good locale type stuff. So check that out at the Manio Downtown Market. Hey, the same day from 9 until 1 is the Tri-Villages Market down in Rodanthe at Camp Hatteras. You're definitely going to want to check that out as well because they have a lot of the same things. Different vendors probably, likely, because, how can you be in two places at once? But lots of cool stuff down there, and that's every Saturday, and they're taking theirs through September 24th. More live music, as I've mentioned, at Fish Head, stuff going on, live music at Bonzer Shack. The Pioneer Theater's got their movies on. Karaoke going on at Uncle Ike's this coming weekend in Corolla. Looking on into Sunday, more things going on at Old Tom's in downtown Manio. Next week, looking at things at the aquarium, things with the town of Duck, the Soundside Sunset Festival, the Soundside Market in Rodanthe. That's going on Monday, July 14th at 4 o'clock. Open mic night at McGrath's Burger Shack. Brew and Arts Market going on at it looks like the Bruin Station. Yeah, Outer Banks Bruin Station from 5 until 8 o'clock. That's also happening on Monday, July 14th. Hey, something else that you can do with me is party with me at McGrath's Burger Shack Wednesdays at 6 o'clock. Those are days that you're definitely going to want to be hanging. Okay. I'm just saying that's the day to party with me. If you ever wonder what I look like? Because some people are like, dude, you don't look like you sound. I hear that a lot. I heard a lot when I was in radio too. Now you can put your eyes on me at McGrath's Burger Shack and figure out exactly what I look like. But yeah, play trivia with me too. At McGrath starting at 6 o'clock on Wednesday evenings. Again, there's so many different things. There's stuff going on down at the Froggy Dog next week in Avon. NC Coast is having the Bar Cats. Looks like a duo happening on Tuesday, July 15th, starting at 6 o'clock. And of course, NC Coast up in Duck. Again, there's so many different things that I could go on and on and on and talk about, but I would rather you take a look at them for yourself. Oceana's Bistro's got stuff going on. Yeah, so take a look at this entire list. Everything going on, coming up next week, the week after that, because it looks like Wednesday is like the busiest day of the week. If you look at our website and you go to the events tab and you click on Wednesday, dude, it's like if you were to print it out, it'd be like 10 pages of stuff. You know what I mean? But again, go online, outerbanksthisweek.com, click on the events tab, and you can see everything in its entirety right there. Okay? Right there. Guaranteed to find something to do. Wild horse tours, different things going on out of the refuges. If you're an outdoorsy type person, just different opportunities to do lots of fun things. 47th annual Wright Kite Festival is coming up Friday, July 18th. Again, online, outerbanksthisweek.com, and click on the events tab. All right. I don't believe I forgot anything. We're going to wrap this thing up. I do want to thank Miss Sarah Hollis Hemmelwright for coming in, or shh, as I want to call her that now. I just realized that when I was putting together when I was spelling her name out on something. It's like Sarah Hollis Hemmelwright. SHH. Shh. Isn't that kind of funny sounding? Anyway, as you can tell, I've known Sarah for a little while, so I can joke and play with her like that. But don't you do that. Don't you do that. Next week, I'm going to bring our buddy Greg Smerdell back in. He's got a couple of new books out that we're going to let him kind of talk about and shine some light on and where you can find them. I did meet a couple the other night when I was doing trivia that actually have some of his books. I haven't told him that yet. So, bring him in and talk about his new books that have come out that he's released and where you can find them. And of course, that guy, he's funny as all get out. He does stand-up comedy. He's the guy that I do the trivia for. He's the umbrella of the trivia nights that you see up and down the Outer Banks. If you've played trivia on the Outer Banks while you've been on vacation, there's a 90% chance that it was coordinated by him. Okay. He coordinates the trivia night that I do at McGrath's Burger Shack. Great guy. Happy to have him back in. So Greg Smerdell will be back in with us next week. Other than that, I believe that's going to do it for this week's episode of the Outer Banks This Week podcast. What is this, episode 122? It's all brought to you by Kelly's Automotive online at kellysobxauto.com and powered right now by Outer Banks Pest Control, ready to eradicate any of those varmints in your life online at outerbanks-pestcontrol.com. All right, I'm out of here. Have yourself a great and wonderful rest of the week, and I'll see y'all again next week. Good Lord willing, and the creek don't rise. Y'all take care now. Bye-bye.
This has been another radical edition of the Outer Banks This Week podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe, follow us on social media, and listen every Thursday for a new episode.